Okay, let's turn this over here. Click this. All right, what is up, everybody? In today's video, all right, I really wanted to make a normal video, but I have such schizophrenic content once again to share with you that it would take forever to fucking edit. So we're just gonna do a nice little smorgasbord. It's raining. I love a good morning rain. And it makes me a little chatty right now. I have, like I said, a lot of random topics that I want to just go over. Some of them are a bit old. Got some old tea to spill with y'all. But then some other sort of interesting points I wanted to bring up. So where to start? Where to start? Let's see here. Tell me, what is making you feel gay this week? No. La 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 la. I guess we'll start with this one because it's actually the newest, and probably has the most relevance. But so like YouTube drama, YouTube drama. There'll be probably like 2 times a year, or just like somehow I get I'm like, oh, I wonder what this channel is doing. And then it's like on a topic that just happens to be like huge right then. And I sort of, listen a little bit and then I won't, I don't really care that much, especially this one. It's about Gabby Hanna, whoever, that is. But all of YouTube was sort of going, well, and social media in general was kind of going crazy the past couple days because this person, I guess, is having this manic episode and posting all of these like 100 TikToks, in 24 hours and blah, 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 blah. And to the world, to the audience, everyone's like someone needs to help her, someone reach out to like her friends to get in contact with her, like we need to call in a wellness check, she's truly having a manic episode, this is not okay, like blah 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 blah, these people that they feel so emotionally connected to the content that is fed to them online, that they feel so impassioned that they, just like with climate change, just like with everything else, you got to go in there and save it, like we can change the world. And so they were all upset because Gabby Hanna is posting all of this crazy content to them. And I like was listening and watching some of the TikToks because someone put like a compilation of them. And yeah, some of what she's saying is fucking nut, like fucking crazy. But at the same time, I'm like, this is like clearly an act to me. And even if it's not, like, who cares? Like so many people can't tell online like what is real and what is not. It's very tricky, look at January 6th, let's look at so many different things, like, and this is like a perfect example of that encapsulates so much of what, like, the issues I have with like wokeism in our culture today, because they'll sit there, okay, and they'll be like, YouTube, like, why aren't you doing anything? Like, you need to like put her account on pause and get her the help she needs, and blah 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 blah. Um, this is what I don't get, and this is what like makes my brain break. Okay, you hear it all the time. I was just talking about it in my last live stream about House of Dragons. They hate the patriarchy. They are hell bent on taking the patriarchy down, whatever the hell that means. They're always very anti-patriarchy. They make entire shows dedicated about it. Everyone has the same sort of talking points about it. But these same people, okay, and now in this situation, they are so quick to run to daddy figures and mommy figures and bureaucratic board members, to get them out of their little emotional jam that they're in. They hate patriarchy so much, but they'll be quick to be like, YouTube needs to have some sort of set up where when someone's displaying like poor mental health online, they can go in and like pause their account and like and help them to get the help they need. And I'm like, do you not, I know these people are so fucking retarded, but like, do you not see like long term or even the very short term, like why doing something like that could be used in a really disadvantageous way? Like, oh, this person is displaying behavior that we don't quite agree with. We're going to flag it as a mental health issue, and now your account is forever on pause because you're saying crazy things, and crazy is up to interpretation. Like Gabby Hanna in this instance she's going in like this super sort of like religious route, like I am the son of God, that type of thing, which doesn't offend me so much. It's just weird because this isn't the first time this has happened, but somehow like people on the right, their names get brought up during these like crazy spews. Like Candace Owens is one of the names that Gabby Hanna was like talking about. Like she gets it, she gets it. And so they'll go through these crazy episodes and say all this crazy shit, and then they'll start like name dropping commentators and people on the right, whatever that means. And it's just so strange. It's just so strange to me. And again, this idea that that social media companies need to be like so involved. It obviously we have issues with social media, we have issues with these tech giants and everything like that. But these people like act and truly feel like um it's just not real. Like, I don't know what to tell these people. Like, it's just not real. And they fall for it time and time and time again. And it's like it's so easy to see how we are in the situation we are in the world today. Cause it's like, oh, again, oh, here's a perfect sort of problem here, and it's getting this type of reaction, and we're gonna come swoop in here and offer the perfect sort of solution, which ends up like putting everything in prison. And Gabby Hanna, who again, I don't know anything about her. Watching these things, I was just like, here's another, like liberal Los Angeles based social media influencer who hates white people, and it just baffles me again that like these people on the right that they hate the patriarchy. They talk about it all the time. They hate the patriarchy, and all it does is oppress women for tens of thousands of years. Yeah, it's the first thing they run to. The first thing they run to get them out of their little jams. We need more patriarchy. We need more rules here, more regulations. We need a big brother figure to be overwatching all of this to make sure that you aren't stepping out of line. You better color in those lines or don't color at all. It's crazy to me. It's so fucking crazy to me. And I'm interested to see sort of how this Gabby Hanna thing plays out. But at the same time, this is one of those times. So I'm like already sort of like bored of it. And now, 4-6 months from now, there'll be another sort of minor YouTube thing that pulls me right back in again. But that's that. I also, someone in my household has been watching the People vs. O.J. Simpson. That I think it was Ryan Murphy. Did he do that? That FX series from a few years back. I had watched it then. I may have rewatched it again, but it's been sort of like in the background in the house, and it just brings back the whole like OJ trial and all of that comment, all of that stuff. And actually, Sacha, if you happen to be watching this, I would love to hear your opinion on the whole OJ trial. As someone who likes the '80s so much, I just was curious if maybe you had an opinion on it. Maybe did we talk about the OJ trial before? I don't really remember, but the OJ trial. So I bring this up because it's like I think it was the maybe not the first, but it was like probably maybe it was the first, but it was huge. I wasn't born then, I wasn't alive then, but it was the first like big instance of like entertainment mixed with narrative. It almost gave me it's not the same thing, but almost gave me like Coney 2012 vibes, where like sort of like listening to this show once again that I haven't seen in a while. As far as getting like the whole public consciousness engaged and emotionally involved. Again, entertainment plus narrative, and it's like you can't get enough of it. You can't get enough of it. And yeah, I don't know. Like they were describing like who I assumed it was OJ who did all this. Like I don't know what anyone else thinks, but it seems pretty obvious that he killed her and the other gentleman. But not just like killed. Like when they were describing the attack, she was like stabbed multiple times. It was like the whole Columbia necktie thing where her head was severed almost to the point that it was completely beheaded. Like this wasn't like a normal, just like, oh, I shot you point blank because you disrespected me. It was like savagery, and that just like made me just hearing that I was like, oh, that makes me sick to my stomach. But of course, the whole like race thing came in and all of that, which is still so crazy to me. But I was curious to anyone who like lived during this, or does anyone have any opinion on Faye Resnick? Because she'll show up in like the current seasons of Real Housewives. She'll sometimes show up in like the Kardashian show. And I was just curious to anyone who lived during that time period, what their opinion is or was of Faye Resnick. On the shows and stuff, I seem to like her. She just seems like a nice Brentwood bitch, but I feel like most people fucking hate Faye Resnick. So I would just be sort of curious about all of that. In other news, a Katie Hopkins clip showed up, and she was talking about how, I guess in Europe, I think this was specifically in Holland, how they're starting to like pull back flights, like they'll like remove like 10,000 flights in an effort to combat climate change. these people are so fucking retarded. If they think it's so easy to see how they're just like pulled along like a little cat, and I'm probably pulled along in different ways too. Um, I'm not like above it, but some of these ones that's just like Jesus fucking Christ. But yeah, I guess they're canceling a whole bunch of flights, and it's this whole like aviation regression. And she keeps talking about like when did you give up your right to be able to fly and travel? And it seems like over the next coming months and years, the ability to sort of travel via plane, and probably they'll make it for boats too, like wherever you want in the world, is going to be increasingly difficult from what she's saying. And I don't know. I find the whole thing really interesting because like, do you feel like you have the right to fly? Um, they invent these like technologies allegedly, and then they offer them up to the world, and then they sort of like roll them back unless you're, a government official or super wealthy. Um, I don't know. I find it all very, very curious. I don't fly that often. I had to fly a couple times later this year. I'm not really looking forward to it because I haven't flown since before the whole fake pancake. I never really I would fly a bunch before the fake pancake, but I never. As someone who is incredibly impatient and doesn't like not having an exit, the whole airport thing always made me pretty anxious. Not to mention, I feel like my skin would always break out just because of I don't know, like airplane moisture is like 0% or something. So my skin is always gross and my ears pop. And I just always, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm an earth sign. Also, happy Virgo season to everybody. We love Virgo season. I feel like I'm in the avatar state. My birthday is a couple weeks away. I'm about to hit the dirty 30. I'm 30 and I like to kick. I'm 30 and I like to kick. Uh, yeah, so I had to fly a couple. I like people watching though. I love people watching. I do that. That's probably one of my favorite hobbies ever. And the airports are one of the last places where you get such an integrated cross section of so many different like socioeconomic, cultural things. Um, I don't know. I don't know. But the whole plane thing is weird to me. But it seems like Europe is the one that's like quadrupling down on all this green energy nonsense. It's so boring. So fucking boring. These are just sort of like more one-off things. Well, I guess it's kind of relevant because it has to do with the student loan, and that whole thing, which I'm sure you guys already know my opinion on that, so I don't really need to go into it. But I do still have a student loan too, actually, and it's really fucking annoying. But one of them has been on pause because it's like a government one, and the other one I've had to continue to pay. Um, and I pay all my bills. I have 100% payment history, Credit Karma, hit me up. But it's really frustrating to me when you are like, you have an account somewhere online, and this one is specifically just for paying my student loan. Okay. It's not like there's money housed on here or anything. It's just an account that has a number, and every month I go in there and the number doesn't go anywhere, but you make the payment and you go on. And, there's so many loopholes I have to get to in regards to passwords to get into this account to pay it off each month. It's so fucking annoying. And I'm like, this is something that shouldn't even have an account like password protection. It's just like unless someone wants to log in and pay the fucking bill for me, why do I have to go through three different things, have to do a text message verification code just to get into my account to pay a bill. Y'all, I'm obviously fucking old school, and I would prefer a good lock and key in so many situations. But this is where everyone's like, oh, everything's like electronic now, and everything's more technological based, and we're so advanced, and life is. It's just these are instances where I'm just like, I really don't see it. I don't see it at all. Not only the whole passwords thing and the combination, all of that. It's like so fucking irritating. But like why is there even a password thing to log onto a service where I have to pay something where they're like it's so freaking stupid. And now I guess they're offering all this money, before midterms, and I don't know. I don't know. Crazy, crazy world. Oh, I learned the other day that I guess infants at between like 8 and 9 months, they already know how to perfectly differentiate between the sexes. And I thought that was really crazy because I'm like, even before they were a year old, they already know that there is a difference between a man and a difference between a woman. And it doesn't have to just do with like hair length or stuff like that. It's like vocal tonality, emotionality, that type of thing. And the babies can tell very, very quickly between the two. And I don't know. In regards to all of this, like gender nonsense and transgenderism, I just think I'm just gonna keep saying how Islamophobic it all is, because Muslim cultures are very, you know, I don't use the word gender because gender doesn't exist, but they're very like sex based, and that's cool. I don't have a problem with it. But in a situation like that, you don't have they them. You don't have a bunch of trannies, and I guess that's pretty Islamophobic to be transgender, and you don't want to be Islamophobic. So I don't know, but the whole tranny thing is so interesting because they say, like obviously all these kids are coming out as transgender now, and all the youth, but you don't see now that it is so acceptable and all of that. Why don't you see all these like 40, 50, 70-year olds coming out as transgender? It's sort of strange there. You think it's a safe enough space now that they could come out and be themselves, but you don't see that happening. And why is that? I don't know. There's probably several reasons why, but the only person I can think of that's like older and quote unquote transgender is Bruce Jenner, and Bruce, I don't even really count as like a bad transgender because I've explained this before. He's someone who's contributed to his country, he's contributed to his community, he built a family. He's 60 something, and you want to put on a dress and call yourself a woman, boy, do whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like, you contributed. But when you're 9 years old and sterilized and think you're a girl trapped in the wrong body, like, what are you going to be able to do for your family because you just sterilized yourself, your community? Well, I don't really know how well all of that mixes together in the community, but maybe you'll be able to do something like contribute to your country, unless you live in a time, I guess, like this, where you can get a job just because you say you're a tranny. Maybe you'll have a pretty nice job, actually. But yeah, Bruce Jenner is the only one that, in my opinion, did it right. Let's see here. Oh, I thought a good book title would really be The Last White Man on My Street, because that seems to be a phrase that I keep hearing more and more as the country changes. But again, where are all, so there'll be like these like white towns. I can think of so many in Wisconsin that are, working class towns that are primarily white or whatever. But then because of what's happened economically in the past couple of years, a lot of those homes have gone for sale and a whole new bunch of people have moved in there. And I'm thinking, where are all these white people going? Where are they moving to? Because they're not moving to the cities, and they're already sort of out there past suburbia into like working class countryside, and then they moving from there. And I'm like, where are they going? I would like to find out. I like this is a stupid thing, but I like to live in areas where the self checkout doesn't have a weight sensor. Like where I live, there's no weight sensors on anything. So when you're doing self checkout, it's not like, please place item in the bagging area. And then it'll sort of like flag you, even though the sensor's just not picking up your fucking shit. And so then you have to have the person come over here, put in their little code. It's really annoying to have the weight sensors on there. But when you live, like Chicago or downtown Milwaukee, you can't have stuff like that because people just walk out without paying. Yeah, I don't know. Here's an interesting one. Sorry again, this is also schizophrenic, but we're just going to keep going. This is the comment I have written down is, it's your baby, but their body. And this is in regards to surrogacy. And y'all already know I'm, against abortion and all of that. But there are like, curious cases that do come up that are interesting. And from like a legal standpoint, I think morally it's obvious. But from a legal standpoint, it gets a little hairy. And so if you are doing a surrogacy and so like your stuff is in a woman along with another woman's eggs, and the what's the terminology? Is it the embryo whatever, when they come together and when they come together, if that egg were then to split and now you're having twins, it gets a little hairy legally. And I didn't understand that. And I thought that was kind of curious because even though it's your baby, it's her body. So unless this is fleshed out beforehand, I guess, like if she doesn't want to carry two or more um, babies inside of her because she only like agreed to one, she has the right to abort the additional fetuses, which is so crazy to me. Um, Again, morally, it's just like, why not keep both of them? But a lot of people, it's hard to carry one child, much less like triplets or something, you know? So I can understand where it gets a little iffy like that. So surrogacy is very popular nowadays, but you get stuff like that where it's just so wild. Um, She's hot, and that commands respect in this world. Sorry, hate to break the news to you people, but hot people get shit. I've been saying that for years and years now. Beauty is the only privilege in this world. Everything else is a lie. Economic privilege, racial privilege, all of that is foolish. Beauty is the only privilege. Um, let's see here. So this is from a couple weeks back when there's a period of the summer where I put my toes out there. I was on the little dating apps, the little hookup apps on my busted little first generation iPod Touch that can barely even load a message. And it was so interesting on Grinder now. And actually, this is an interesting conversation because it's pretty like 50-50 split in regards to the Kukarachi stuff. And the 50 that are super pro it, they obviously put it in their bio. So they'll put in like Moderna ×3 or Moderna ×4 : and then there'll be like a monkey emoji, and then it'll be like ×1, which I didn't even know there was like a monkey Kukarachi already. Is that true? I don't even know anything about the monkey thing. I think that all of that stuff is such a hoax. It's not even funny. Well, I guess it is kind of funny because people still think it's real, and oh, it blows my mind. Blows my mind. But anyways, so in Grinder, yeah, so it's like 4 times Moderna and then monkey emoji ×1. And like I said, though, it's 50-50 split. There are like people that are very much obviously for it, but then the other like half either don't have an opinion about it, don't care, are staunchly against it or whatever. But again, if you take like gay people as a group, I feel like they're one of the only groups where it's not like if you take a group of black people, it's going to be like 70-80% like left, maybe 10-20% right. But like gay people, it's really up in the air. There are some obvious ones, of course, but then there's other instances like yours truly where it's not so black and white. Let's see here. Oh, I'm pretty sure there's a Fed on my channel. Oh gosh, do we want to talk about this right now? I guess we can. Yeah, I think he's been here for a while, but pretty darn sure there's a Fed on my channel, and it's so interesting going back and forth with this person. Oh gosh, nice to see my tax dollars, being put to work. Hello, if you're listening out there. Da, 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 da. Where should we go? Oh, I should have actually started with this because it's a nice little story time. Okay, so I have been very, very social as of late. Well, this whole summer, really. And this was last weekend. I had biked down to the lake park down the road from me, and I was sitting there doing my thing, and there was like a group of people sort of off to my right, and they were talking kind of like loudly enough that I could hear them without like trying, but I was only hearing like sort of phrases like liberal, conservative, that type of thing. And I was like going back and forth in my mind. I'm like, oh, I would really like to ask these people just out of curiosity some sort of like questions just to see what they would think or what their opinion was on certain things, because this was like about a group of like probably 8 boomers. And when I say boomers, you obviously know they're white because you use generational terms in regards to white people. You don't think black boomer, you know what I mean? But anyway, so this is a group of like probably eight boomers, maybe like 1 or 2 of them were your dad's age, a couple of them probably like your oldest uncle's age, that type of thing. They were sort of like sitting in a circle discussing politics. And then there was like probably 3 women, 3 wives, off to the side at a picnic table, kind of close by, but in their own discussion because sometimes men and women talk about different things and are interested in different things. But anyways, I was going back and forth in my brain. I'm like, should I just leave them alone or should I go talk to them and just sort of see? But I end up going and talking to them. And it was a very interesting thing that I walked into. Um, they were, once I sort of like, so I approached them or whatever, and I thought they would be a little, there was like a hesitancy there. And I immediately got the vibe that they thought I was some sort of like plant or maybe like a reporter or something. I don't really know, but they were sort of like taken back, like why are you asking us these questions? You know, and there were questions. You know, I was like, oh, I heard you talking about politics and stuff like this. Can I just ask you your thoughts on a couple things? You know, like the past election. You know, like what did you think about that? Do you think it was rigged? Do you think your vote was respected? Would you vote again? That type of thing. Um, and they thought these people are Republicans, by the way. And they were like, they thought the last election was perfectly valid, perfectly fair. They were like, yeah, maybe people say some sort of things, but they believe Biden got like over 80 million votes, and yeah, wild to me. So then I was like, oh, are you planning to vote again in 2022 and 2024? And yeah, of course, you have to vote. It's your patriotic duty to vote. And it was just like so crazy to me. So then I sort of started talking about other more sensitive topics. There are a couple that I didn't even like approach at all because two of them I could tell were like super Christian, which is great and we love it so much. But I was like, if I mention the JQ or Israel, these people are going to get set off. So maybe we'll just dip the toes in the water of the race conversation, and we'll just sort of go from there. And it was very very interesting to see how they responded to all of that. They were very uncomfortable talking about race at all. There was only one guy who was asked about like seeing white men in commercials anymore, and no one said anything at all until one guy was like, the only time you'll see um, that is if he's with like a black girl or something. And I'm like, okay, so maybe you sort of see that. But I was kind of they were very very hesitant to talk about race at all. They were the type of people. Actually, this even came up where he like mentioned, because there was like a group of like Latinos over to the side playing like soccer or something, and he'll say things like black or something, but like black, but like not in that way. They always have to like qualify and validate that what they're saying is really meant out of like niceness. It's so bizarre how their brain sort of goes around all of this stuff. But yeah, the Christian people in this group thought that I was like, oh, do you think that do you deserve your own homeland? Like, do you have the right to have your own home? A place where like people have similar sort of morals as you. Maybe they're sort of into the same things. They're not exactly like you, of course. But to be in a community of people that share your values, your view of life, they didn't really have an opinion on that. And at this point, I didn't even bring it in. I didn't even bring race into it. I was just like I like to go biking. I like to do certain things. I like to be around people. You gravitate toward people that have similar interests to you. It's fun to do things with other people. I'm an inveterate loner, but it's always fun to do stuff with people too. And this is at this point, like the wives are sort of like listening in, and they had this implication that I was like advocating for some sort of like white supremacy or something. And I really didn't even like teeter in that direction at all. I was trying to be as sort of like general, and not to use like inflammatory words at all. Just like I said, I like to be around people that are like me. Do you like to do things with people? Trying to be as bland and whatever, because I could tell that they were already sort of taken back that we were even discussing something like this. But the one like super Christian guy was like, I have a problem with you saying that you deserve or have the right to your own home. Like, we don't deserve anything. We deserve hell. He had you see this so much on the right, this like insane poverty consciousness. All these other people can have a home. Like the Japanese, the Israelis, they all can have their home. But meek and meager little me, like, oh, I don't know if I deserve a home. Like, Daddy, have I been good enough? It's so hard, and you see this in so many. This expresses itself in so many ways on the right, but this is like a perfect example of it. And in my head, I'm like, okay, so generally people say you need like food, water, and shelter to survive in this world, but apparently this guy thinks that last one isn't maybe the naivety on the right is like stunning. And when it came to like immigration or things like that, they had they were very very hesitant, and really didn't like the idea of like the idea of having like their own home was like didn't compute with them. I was like, wouldn't you want to live in a country where you had like a say in how the country's direction is going, and these decisions like having the border completely open and stuff like that wouldn't be made? And they were like, the one woman was like, yeah, well, if my granddaughter falls in love with a Latino, I would love them and open them up, like open my arms to them and accept them into our family. And I'm like, that like niceness is like so not the point. Like, don't you understand math, you dumb fucking bitch? Like you are outnumbered, and your granddaughter, as lovely as she may be, when she's in a room with like 15 fucking Somalis and like and they're fucking horny, like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, not everyone shaves, not these people don't share this, like, oh, I treat you with respect, now you're going to treat me with respect. Like, the naivety is stunning, and it makes me almost a little bit afraid because they're so blind to what's going on right in front of them. And again, I tried to sort of poke around very, very lightly, and they were not having it. Very friendly people. They were nice. We had a good conversation. But even towards the end of it, they're like, "Are you writing a thesis or something? Like, are you mic'd?" Like they thought I was like. And what I wanted to say I didn't think about this till afterwards when I was biking home. But like, you thought I would be writing a thesis about this? Like, you think this country is going to be okay? Yet, if I were to even suggest writing a thesis like this at a college in today's day and age, I would be kicked out of that school so fucking quickly, it's not even funny. And you think all of that is going to somehow be self-sustaining and all of that can coexist? Very, very naive people. They do believe that they can vote their way out of this. Um, and maybe that will happen, who the fuck knows? But I I don't know. It was an interesting conversation, to be sure. The guy, a lot of the I heard a lot from one of the guys, and he was like, it's the far left and the far right that are like way out of bounds right now. We need to get back more to a middle. And I'm thinking to my head, like, okay, like I've heard people say that before, but can you like show me like examples of this far right extremism? I guess, like, give me examples of where you see this popping up in the culture, because the far leftism, I mean, lists and lists and lists, like, but like far right, like I don't, like, maybe I was expecting him to say something maybe like Charlottesville or something, what happened like 8 years ago. But I don't really know, other than maybe in like sentiment, I don't really see a lot of like expression of far right attitudes. um Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But to be honest with you, these like boomer types, I feel like we have more of a chance of convincing. Actually, we shouldn't say convincing, because we want people to come to it on their own. Because if you can convince if you can convince someone of something, they can be convinced out of it. You want them to genuinely come to it on their own, because it's that much more powerful. But I feel like we have a higher like probability of making like luck with people like on the left and the far left than we do have like with people on the moderate right. Um, that's that kind of like that wows me a little bit, because these people in the moderate right, these Fox News sort of boomer types, they will not move in certain directions. And I don't know. People say like, what will it take to mobilize people on the right? I don't think that's ever going to happen. Um, Maybe sort of like fringe groups, but as far as like your parents types, I don't think they're ever going to do anything, brah. And that in the long term, everyone always is like, I don't pick left or right, but right has a little bit more, you know, a little bit more sanity nowadays. And yeah, that's true, but I wouldn't necessarily attach myself to the people on the right thinking that in the long term they're going to win out, because I don't know. Again, the poverty consciousness is something that I really, really struggle with on the right. Like, on that, we don't deserve that. I'm not saying don't live a simple life or anything like that, but they sort of condense reality into this like suffering and this like very meek, what can one say? It's like that one guy, like, oh, I don't deserve this. I'm not saying don't be grateful and don't be appreciative and stuff like that, but like uh their views towards like success and money and all of that are kind of strange to me. And having more of a not not to go all new age and have an abundant, mindset, but like, does everything have to always hurt so badly? I don't know. And I and to that guy's point, like, I don't think I deserve a home. Like who says something like that? I don't know. Very, very baffling to me. La 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 la. What else is on my little list here? I think we could probably leave it there for right now. Um, I just have, yeah, the last comment I have was social media fusion, Jeff Lewis. What's real and what's not? And I think that was made in regards to Jeff Lewis. I'll sometimes listen to his, I guess, radio show. I found him sort of adjacent to Heather McDonald of the Juicy Scoop, which is what I love so much and where I get most of my pop culture news. Um, and Jeff Lewis is like the gay version of that, but more boring. But how his like radio show sort of works, and like with social media nowadays, like there are instances where like the audience doesn't know, like, is this real? Is this something for the show? You share so much of your life that it's hard to tell what is entertainment, what is just like what is genuinely real, and what is the real. And I don't know. It gets very, 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 very murky. And I guess going full circle back to the Gabby Hanna thing is you really can't fall for what you see online, no matter how convincing it may or may not seem. That Neptune and Pisces energy. It's tricky, but I think getting away from the screens in the long run will probably be best, because I think the human spirit naturally loves storytelling. Subconsciously, unconsciously, and consciously, who doesn't love a great story? And a lot of people get tripped up thinking that it's the rules and the laws that govern this realm and not the signs and the symbols, because it's those symbols that are what affects your unconscious and which then motivates your conscious efforts. So trying to figure out what is real and what is not these days is very, very tricky. And I don't know if it would be more advantageous to just do away with the screens in general and just go back to sort of campfire storytelling. That I don't know, because I like story time videos. I like people who are good at telling stories. I think that it's almost an art form in a way, but it's hard these days to tell what's real and what's not. And just because you can't tell what's real or it's not doesn't mean we need to have YouTube all of a sudden come out with this sidebar to flag you if you think you're displaying poor mental health. Like, these people are so fucking retarded. I can't even. But anyways, I'm trying to think if there's anything. I guess, let me not dox myself, but we got the new issue of Vogue, the September issue yesterday, and I don't know if that's a man or a woman on the cover, but that is Vogue. Serena's farewell. I'm terrible at goodbyes. Don't really know. Doesn't really seem like that pretty of a cover to me. I don't know. For the September issue, it seems a little woof. Maybe I'll do a video paging through this. I love how fashion magazines spell. But we already know that there's probably like a 10 to 15 page political spread in here. They probably do a whole thing on, yeah, I can already see it already. But I will say what's interesting is there's this Louis Vuitton ad on the back here. And it looks like they're sort of juxtaposing sort of more of a bohemian, what would you call it? Sort of like muumuu peasant dress with like an oversized rugby shirt. And y'all know I clocked the rugby shirts probably 3 or 4 years ago now. We love a good rugby shirt, but I don't know if this really all works together that well. It looks kind of frumpy. I don't really find it pretty at all. I think the shirt on its own is fine and maybe the dress, but putting them together, bruh, I just don't think it works. I don't think it really works at all. I guess, okay, here is a painting by a guy named Marcus Brutus. They're spotlighting, of course, black people like they always do. This is a little isn't that a bit frightening for like a fashion magazine? Like, I don't know. A bit unpleasant to look at that, but yeah, this is so boring, so boring. So we're not going to do that right now. I guess let me go through the comments here. Robert Showalter, morning, bud. Howdy, sir. Derp McDurson, thoughts on Chris Chan's rugby shirt? I don't know who Chris Chan is. If you don't know, it might be better. Chris Chan. Oh. Is he like... Oh. I don't really know what to say. Oh, do you think there's like a higher instance of Down syndrome in Western countries as opposed to places like Africa? Um, do you think that's in relation to like the 20 plus cucarachas that you get as an infant? Do you think that there's any possible correlation there, or is there a different cause for the genetic um, inconsistency, if that's the right word? Like, do you see a lot of Down syndrome people in Africa? Do you see a lot of Down syndrome people in like southern India? Um, or is that more of like a Western thing? Someone was making a joke about how South Koreans have the highest rate of Down syndrome, and that's because you can't tell the difference between because most South Korean people look like they already have Down syndrome. Oh, and I'm not laughing. All of the people of on the autism spectrum and Downs people, whatever you want to call them, retards, I don't really know, but they all have loved me in every single one of them in my life and have never not given me an incredibly positive experience. Like at the grocery store, because don't have a filter, and I love that. Like I don't know, yeah, or at like weddings and stuff, they're always like, "Do you want to be my boyfriend? Can we go dance?" And I'm just like, "Hell yeah, I'll be your boyfriend." Or like the ones that, or like on Grinder, on Grinder when there's like like some special ed kid somehow got access to Grinder and he's like blowing up your phone, and it's just so crazy. It can't block quick enough, but I believe Ramsey Paul is familiar. Okay. A trans person and certified autist currently incarcerated for incest, also known for wearing a certain rugby shirt. Oh, he's trans, autistic, and currently incarcerated for incest, also known for wearing a certain rugby shirt. Huh. Okay. No, I believe Ramsey is familiar. I don't know who that is, but we love Ramsey Paul so much. Um, I will say though, it's interesting because you see this from him, but like just people on the right in general. And when it comes to like anal sex, it's always like, oh, it's so like if only those homosexuals would stop doing all that like anal sex, maybe we would have a better society. But there seems to be like this total blind spot that like I don't know, all of my like straight friend couples all like do anal. You know what I mean? So is it like okay if it's with a girl? Is it okay if the girl does it to you? Then is it fine? Or is it still degenerate? I ask because no one on the right ever like expands that conversation. It's always those those fucking queers, if they would just stop doing that, you know what I mean? If they would just stop doing that, they've been doing it for like tens of thousands of years, and if they would just stop, everything would be better, But again, is it okay though if you do it with a woman? Is it fine? I would assume they would say no, it's gross regardless, but they never say that. It's always those fucking queers. Anyways, I need to get going. I need to move on with my day. Like I said, rainy day here, but we got lots to do. Anyways, I will be back soon. House of the Dragon episode 2 is on this Sunday. Can't wait for that. It didn't look like there was a new Beverly Hills episode this week, which I'm kind of confused why, but Beverly Hills has been pretty freaking boring this season, not gonna lie. So I ain't mad about it. Anyways, I think I'll leave it there and talk to you all later. I love you so much. Bye.